Thank you very much. My presentation, as I said, I'll just try and combine the two, because I indicated that infrastructure assets, they then generate revenue, and it's more of a high-level overview. This is what I mostly specialize on, which is asset management. It's an area that I'm quite passionate about, because if I'm in local government, I did say earlier you're a public servant, meaning that you are serving communities, and you only serve communities through infrastructure asset management, through infrastructure assets, because that's what then renders services to the communities, like your water, your electricity, and so forth. All right, so I'm just going to do this one slide in this presentation. We will be emailing these presentations to everyone, but just make sure that your details are correct at the registration table, that your email address is correct, because if it's not correct, then it will bounce and then we'll have an issue. So make sure you also do check that, so that when we email it, you do get it. So now, municipal asset management, these are the core things that are mainly dealt with when it comes to asset management. For those who have been in that particular section, will attest to this, which talks to taking of assets with your barcodes or your asset numbers. The other aspect is the verification, where you go to different locations, you verify which assets you have, you look at their condition, then you either put a good, average, or poor, because this also talks to doing your impairments, which is your decrease in value of your asset. The tracking movement of assets, where you've got asset in this particular room, you'll assign a room number, and then within that room, you've got a number of assets. So you always make sure that when the AG comes, they verify this, where they say you have room number 01, you're meant to have 20 assets. So you want to make sure that in room 01, you've got your 20 assets in there. They don't want to see this chair that is supposed to be on the other room and then they find it here. Then you must make sure that you are able to track those movements. In municipalities, they've got movement forms for assets, so that whoever moves one particular chair or moves one particular asset from one location to another, they'll fill the form, then submit it to the asset department. The asset department will then ensure that the asset register is updated, because the verification that I'm talking about is when you take your assets from your asset register, what is recorded, then you will verify it against what is on the ground to make sure that it ties up. If you've got 100 assets in your register, then on the floor, you must have 100 assets as well. They also do from the floor, where you check what is on your floor, that it ties up to your asset register. That's how they do the auditing at the end. And then asset take-ons, in case you bought a particular asset and then it wasn't capitalized. Capitalized meaning that it wasn't brought into your asset register, and then you will do what we call an asset take-on. Then you bring it on a fair value basis. You can write off when an asset requires to be written off, or through the disposal processes. I've already mentioned the asset register. One important thing is capitalization of infrastructure projects. They call it WIP, which is work in progress, or others they call it AUC, which is assets under construction. This is when you have a project that is taking place in municipalities. You might see a water treatment plant that is being constructed, or they are doing a pump station, or they are doing a power station. They are constructing it, so that goes into your work in progress. So work in progress, you don't depreciate because it's not yet available for use. So then when you transfer it, when it's complete and available for use, and I said use, you know, your type of English. So once it's available for use, because that's what it meant to be, then you take it out from your work in progress, then you move it into your completed asset, which is your asset register, then you start depreciating. So that is the transfer from AUC or WIP into your completed asset. And then there's something called componentization. I'm sure you might have heard of that. It's when you take up a particular asset and you break it down into different components. As an example, a house. A house will have, might have a steel structure, it might have a concrete structure, It might have electrical component. So all of those got different useful lives. So as they've got different useful lives, for you to depreciate it on, you all remember depreciation. You take, there's a straight line method, mainly used in municipalities. It's mainly the straight line method, where you take a particular value, then you divide by 5 or 10 years, then you get each year's depreciation. You remember that, class? Yes. So now what happens is, when you've got one complete asset, especially infrastructure, you take one, then you break it up into those different components so that you can assign a different useful life. Because just because it's a building, it doesn't mean this whole building, everything here, will last you 20 years. There are certain things that will only last you 10 years. That means that you must then depreciate it accordingly. Then you calculate your depreciation, as I mentioned, then you do your AFS disclosures within your books. There are certain notes, note 10, 11, 12, and these other appendixes that are there. The finance or the AFS gurus will know. But the main thing is to ensure that you achieve a clean audit. And the assets, because of the value of it, it's most critical. Because one thing goes wrong here, the municipality can get an adverse audit opinion because of the values that we are dealing with. So that is why those who are at asset management, they are always running around during the AFS section to make sure that everything is in order. So, and then the actual concept of asset management, as much as I've mentioned the accounting side, mainly in municipalities, that's what we do right now, but it actually is even more than that when you want to look at the bigger picture of what is asset management. And I'm just going to touch on this being a systematic process. So it's not necessarily a once-off thing or a year-end thing we just do on a yearly basis, but there is a process where you acquire, you assess, you monitor, there's disposal, all of that, which I won't go through much in it. But at the end of the day, whatever that you're doing, it must be cost effective. That is why you manage the asset so that you can maximize the usage of it in a very cost effective manner. And as I say, you are dealing with hundreds or even billions. eThekwini's asset base is 400 billion. 400 billion. That is their asset base that they have. That's their current replacement cost. And even that value is not a true picture. It can even be more than that because there are even other underground assets that they cannot quantify at this stage. But that tells you the magnitude of some of the assets that are within municipalities that needs to be managed and at some point will need to be replaced. Now this is where you will become a good change agent. Currently in municipalities, depreciation is merely a book entry. You know, in accounting, you do your book entries, just close off your books and that's it. But depreciation is meant to, once you have done your calculations, that money for depreciation ought to be put in your reserves. You're supposed to have physical money in your bank account that you're putting for depreciation. Why so? Because after that 10 years, 20 years of existence of the asset, it's going to cease to exist. And you are then meant to replace that particular asset by what you've been depreciating with in all those years. Do you understand? But unfortunately, as I say, in most municipalities, I will even say with confidence, 95% in the country are just doing depreciation for the sake of book entries, but there's no money being set aside for that. So now, you as accountants, future CFOs, make sure you do that. That is why in most areas now, there's a crisis where we can't deliver services because we are saying, no, the infrastructure has aged, or it's aging. Yeah, it's fine. Everything, you know, we are born and then time to also die. That's just the cycle of life. Same thing with those infrastructure assets. It means the planning part, throughout the journey of the asset, we must take care of it. So you make sure you take that and make sure that when it's your time, you do the right thing, that you put aside those depreciation for the time will come. And then the reason for that, just want to go to this one. This is why we do asset management, to provide an agreed level of service in the most cost-effective manner for people of today and people of tomorrow, which is what we are doing as local government. We are servicing our community through infrastructure assets that we have. All right, so I'm just going to do this one last one on assets. And then we'll move on to the revenue one. I'm trying to rush, but I hope I'm not rushing too much. Are we okay? Still okay? Okay. All right. All right, the need to implement integrated asset management solutions for sustainable delivery. Why am I saying that? Because of this. This is where we get our mandate from as local government. Section 152 of the SA Constitution. There are 5 objects of local government. One, to provide accountable government. That is why we do the annual report, and the annual report encompasses the financial statements because we're being accountable to our communities. But B says to ensure the provision of services to communities in a sustainable manner. Now, for services to be sustainable, it means that you must manage the asset well, including, as I indicated earlier, the renewal of those assets when it's time to renew them so that you are sustainable in what you do. Because the focus has been, we need to eradicate backlogs. Once we eradicate backlogs, but we are not now managing and we're moving forward, we need to eradicate more backlogs we have currently. If you're not maintaining it, if you're not managing it, there's a point in time when it will catch up with us. And currently it is catching up with us as a country throughout. That is why there's so many other protests that are happening, because once you provide people with services, the expectation is that it will always be there. And now the problem is, once you have raised the expectation and people expect you to deliver on it, and now you're not delivering, sometimes there is water, sometimes there's no water, they start not to pay you. Now, as they don't pay you, then it affects your revenue. Now, as it affects your revenue, it affects your budget. About 120 odd municipalities' budgets are currently unfunded. That's what we had at past CIGFARO conference by National Treasury. There is almost half, if not more than half, of municipalities in the country, their budgets are unfunded, mainly because of all these dynamics. Not that people can't afford to pay, they can pay. People got DSTVs out there. So you can't tell me they can pay for DSTV, but they can't pay for water, which is their basic necessity. But because now we've not been doing our work well in terms of providing consistent services to them, they're not happy. People are not happy, they will do funny things. But if they are happy, they want their municipality to go forward, they will pay for those services. But we need to then play our part. So that is where we get asset management. And these are the other objectives of local government. I said you can read them at your own time. And then earlier I was mentioning the accounting side of asset management. But asset management in totality encompasses all of these things: engineering, finance and accounting. Because when you talk of infrastructure asset management, now you're talking of the engineering side. Now you need to make sure that there are certain principles of infrastructure asset management that you have to know. Business and economics. Now, the current drive by the president of the country is that he wants to attract investment, about 1 trillion, if not mistaken, rands of investment to come to the country. But if we do not have municipalities, because whatever investment you get is going to come to a municipality. If they don't have services to provide to businesses for them to invest, no one is going to come and invest. That is why, unfortunately, in rural areas, you don't get much investments going into it, because those municipalities don't have adequate infrastructure in there. Or even if they do, they're not managing it well. They don't focus on managing that infrastructure. Because big businesses, an example in Lembe, we've got a company called Avon Picking Power. They produce power to Eskom between the peak hours, between I think it's 6 and 8, only for that 2 hours a day. And they're making millions of rands. And they're doing it via amans, water. They've got these big tanks. I don't know what they do inside those tanks, and that water ends up producing power to Eskom. Now, if Ilembe District Municipality does not have a sustainable service to provide that business, they will either shut down and go away, and it means that even others who were even thinking of coming to Ilembe District, they won't even come, because these are big businesses and they're putting so much of money and investment into that. So that is why that it becomes important for municipalities to make sure that they are managing the infrastructure. And that is where business and economics then comes in. More investment, you're growing the economy. The President is talking of that injection of 1 trillion because he wants to grow the economy. That's what the current, I won't use the party slogan, let's grow together. But that's what basically he's trying to do in terms of growing the economy, because it's all things working together. Sorry for those who are DA, I don't know what the slogan is, because I just have seen a lot of placards, and those who are EFF, because I had Mr. Mudli earlier, he was mentioning Mr. Julius. I'm sure I saw others wearing red here, so maybe they are with Mr. Julius. All right, so these are all the dynamics surrounding asset management. I won't go into all of them because of time. And then lastly, on asset management, you've got, this is one model that for those who want to do asset management, if you master this, you basically mastered asset management before you go into all the technicalities of GRAP and this and that. Because it starts by assessing what you currently have, that is your state of current assets. Then you plan, that's why you've got the policy, strategy, plan, then that must be linked to your financial planning. And then you also need to implement that which you are doing. So it becomes that one process. But at the end of it, you've got information that is data. Asset management is data-driven. The asset registers is one document in a municipality that has more data than any other. And very important, because one thing goes wrong there, as I indicated earlier, then affects your audit opinion. That's why it is one of the most safeguarded documents that we have. And then you work a lot with people, because you don't own assets if you are working in an asset management department, but you're working with different departments who are actually using those particular assets and even managing those particular assets. So you need to make sure that you are a people's person. I've always said, if you don't know how to work with people, don't even come to asset management, because you're gonna be frustrated. When you go to verify people, to verify assets, you're gonna meet people. And some people, some days, they're not nice. They had a bad day, maybe last night had a bad night, and then you are coming to verify and say, please stand up, say, I want to see where the tag is and take the asset number to tick and verify. And they just look at you. And others might not even want to do that. Can you please give me your laptop? I want to verify the serial number, the barcode number. Now, if you don't have a way of approaching and talking to people, you will end up going out as well, and your day is finished. And now imagine how many people you're going to have to ask to do that. So it means that you must forever be smiling, and then maybe you can cry later, as long as you can do your work. Because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that you get your work done. All right, so in a nutshell, there's an overview of asset management. And as I indicated, the Center for Municipal Asset Management is something that we have started this year, working very closely with SALGA, as well as our Canadian counterparts who have been gracious to us to say they will share some information with us through the communication means that we have. All right, so I'm just going to now take you through revenue management. Not sure if the manager is here. If he's not here, we'll carry on. He sent me a message that his little one recently had a son. So, and he had to take him to the hospital this morning. So that's why he has had to apologize. So it's a serious matter, but I will carry on. All right, revenue management. Again, it's an overview. I said earlier, my specialty is asset management. But one area that I love the most is revenue management, because you need money to do anything. For us to be here, we need money. For municipality to render services, there must be money. So now, that money, at the end of the day, if we don't have it, municipalities are not sustainable. A lot of municipalities currently are financially unsustainable. That is a fact, and we can look that up. And one of the critical things currently is that municipalities are not paid for the services that they are rendering. Now, there are billions of rands that are owed to municipalities, and there are different reasons for that. But one thing now that you are here, you need to make sure that you become that good change agent going forward. so that you ensure your municipality can receive the money. I put here, building a sustainable model, money into the bank account. Most people focus on billing. You must make sure that you bill. You've got 1,000 residents that must be billed. You bill them and make sure you bill all of them. But the question is, once you bill them, are you able to recover all the money that you have billed them? Otherwise, again, it just becomes like that example I use of depreciation. You're just increasing your debt book of people that are not paying you. You're sitting with 100 million of revenue that you have billed, but you go into your bank account and you've got nothing. So must you be focusing on billing people or focusing on collecting monies from people? It goes hand in hand. From what you bill, you must be able to collect. So the whole process, you need to make sure that you understand it. When you go to that revenue section, maybe they're going to put you at customer care services. Maybe they'll put you to be a cashier. Don't just sit there and I'm just going to know what is about cashiering, how to receive money. No. Understand the whole process. I know that now National Treasury and Provincial Treasury are pushing for interns to rotate because others are complaining we're not rotating. But remember, when you go to revenue, revenue is made up of different other sections. You might only go to one, and there might be 6 sections. But now if you're going to sit there and just concentrate on that one and not know the bigger picture of what revenue management is, then you're actually losing the plot. So it's up to you to make sure that you understand the full picture of what revenue management is. Quickly, I will run through the, okay, in revenue management, 1, customer data and completeness becomes important, meaning that the database of your consumers, if you don't know the consumers that you have, so how are you going to collect their monies? So at all times, when you bill the right person, and then have their contact details. In case they don't pay you, they will be able to follow up and get your monies. Most municipalities, they've got high debt books. Then they give it to debt collectors, and then debt collectors are struggling to collect because there's no information of those consumers. And in other instances, people continue getting the water or getting the electricity, but then no one is going to cut them because they don't even know where they are. And that is, remember, it's a cost to the municipality because you keep on incurring a cost. You're buying water, you're buying electricity. Remember, you don't produce your own. Water you buy from your water boards, Omgeni, electricity you buy from Eskom. Now you're buying all of that, but you're not getting a subsequent revenue. That is why then it's not sustainable for municipalities, and most municipalities are failing because of that, because the cost is escalating, but it's not matched to your revenue. And there's no grants that will come from anywhere. We spoke earlier, fees must fall. So now whatever money that is there was no fees must fall 3 or 4 years ago. Now there's fees must fall. So if we had 5 trillion, now the only 5 trillion that we have, we now need to start accommodating this fees must fall, free education for the first year students. Where is that money going to come from? It's only now that President is talking of we need to get investment. So that fees must fall money must only come from this one pool. So even Treasury now can't allocate more funds to municipalities in the form of grants. So it means municipalities must generate their own revenue and collect their own revenues. That is why this becomes highly, highly important. And one other thing, we are now in the 4th industrial revolution. We now got businesses who are becoming more innovative. They are going solar. Others now, one of the estate where I come from, they now want to put a desalination plant on their own in an estate. So what is that telling you? The water that we're supplying them, they're saying, no, it's fine, we'll make our own water so that we don't have to buy from you. For those who are now going solar route, the electricity that we're buying from the municipality, we're no more going to buy it from the municipality, we're going to have our own electricity. We've got our own grid. City of Joburg, they've decreased by 6% in their sales for electricity. Why? Because most big businesses are going solar. They're going all these alternative routes of getting power. You go to the Western Cape, they are saying now they want more IPPs, and then also they want the municipality to generate its own electricity so they don't rely on Eskom. So there are all those different factors that needs to be taken into consideration. So even the monies that we think we'll collect are starting to shrink But I'm saying you also need to be creative now as revenue practitioners. What are other revenue means and methods that we can use to generate money? Because elsewhere, they are making money from other means. And if we open up our minds, we can be able to find those revenue means. All right, amen? Amen. Okay, customer care and management. Again, that becomes important. Customer care. Customer care. Is there anyone who has been to the revenue management section? Show of hand. Revenue management. Have you been to the cash hall? Cash hall? Cash hall, yes. I hope you are treating those customers well. Hey, I go sometimes. It's like you are the king. And the customer, what they say, I don't know. So this person must serve you. But it's supposed to be the other way around. You know, abanye afika sefonini yakhe la and the person wants to pay. Come on. Then you go to the private sector. Private sector, it's the other way around. The person is still on the, I also do that at times. I'm on my phone. Sir, can we help you? Okay, let me just finish. And they will respect that. But in government, it's the other way around. We are sitting on the other side. We want to receive the money, but we're busy on our phones. The attitude is not right. Customer care becomes important. Otherwise, I'm telling you now, if I don't receive good service, I'm not going to go there again. Or I want to go there when I want, when I feel like it. If I don't feel like meeting a public servant or official, that is not going to be nice to me. Not today, I'll go tomorrow. There is loss to the municipality. That's revenue that was supposed to be gotten by the municipality on that day. So make sure customer care, you care for the people out there. You are there because of them. You are public servants. You are meant to serve the people out there. Do it with a smile. They said, if you want to grin and be unhappy, do it after 4 when you go home, or maybe while you're driving home, but be good at home as well. So maybe just have your 30 minutes of yourself of being unhappy, but just make sure that the people that are there, the communities are the people who are paying our salaries. That we must get it on the inside. I said earlier I get paid, I won't say quite well, but it's quite good, and I'm happy with that. So now, if I'm going to mistreat those people and not do what I'm meant to be doing, so I'm actually not doing consciously right within myself. Okay, I've spoken about the billing process, what it all entails, debt management, which I will touch quickly on, and then I will move along. I will skip this one, and then I'm going to go into that. This talks to, when you're saying you want to build something, it's very nice to come up with a nice plan, program, but if you don't put time frames, this is what we said we wanted to do, because I'm talking from experience. I've done this. I'm not talking theory. He knows, because I once presented this at Salga. So when you say you want to do something and you commit yourself into doing something, you put your time frames. This is what I'm going to do. These are the things that I'm going to do. I'm going to have my action plans. We're going to focus on debt management. We're going to review our budget and tariffs. Prepaid meters. Nowadays, people are moving prepaid, more intelligent meters, smart meters. Municipalities need to start to explore that. At CIGFARO, we started last year a Revenue Solutions Summit. Every year in November now it's going to take place, where we want smart meters. People must come and present and tell us what is happening out there, because other countries are doing the same thing. We also need to start getting into that zone. And then these are other things that were meant to be done, which were done. So as I indicated, if you don't put time frames, then you can't measure yourself. This next one talks to the whole building cycle, revenue cycle, where you bill, you take care of your people, then you also have to exercise credit control, where you must collect the monies. So you have to know what is happening in each. Billing, it talks to your meter reading, data capturing, consumer database, is it in order? How is your reporting? How much money are you actually putting up as your billing? Most municipalities right now, when we say they've got unfunded budget, you know what they do? They go and do their expenditure. They say our expenditure is going to be 200 million. Then they say, okay, how are we going to manipulate revenue? Because we must have a balanced budget. And then they're going to force revenue to be 200 million. Fully knowing that you're not going to get the 200 million, but you're going to manipulate and do your tariffs to make sure that they come and give you 200 million, which is totally wrong, and it catches up with you. And the guys from Provincial Treasury, they will come and do their analytics, and they will find you, and then they will tell you that, no, this is wrong, you use wrong assumptions, you are forcing to balance this thing so that you can have a balanced budget, which is totally incorrect. So you must always make sure you're going to bill correctly. If it's not supposed to be 200 million, if it's 100 million, put 100 million. Then make sure your expenditure is talking to that. Then you can only spend 100 million. That's why other municipalities now are talking retrenchments. I'm sure others might know one municipality here in KZN that is trying to do that. And currently they're up in arms with the unions. They want to retrench half of the staff because it's not financially sustainable. Their huge cost bill of salaries is so high, they can't even do anything. They can't even buy the bulk services to provide services for the communities because they've employed more people than they should have. And others, because of other reasons, because we need to put these ones there, put this one and put this one's cousin and put that one's auntie and this and that, then your salary bill is so high. But then your services are then tempered with. All right, so yeah, I think I've mentioned all of these credit control that you need to collect your monies. Then you must know the structure that you have. I think you guys are not yet there to think of organograms and what so forth, but it also talks to understanding the bigger picture of revenue management. You must know where you are. You must know who is where, who is doing what. Then you can also ask the relevant questions within the revenue sections. Okay, these are the issues that we dealt with, and also how we aimed to do it, which we did at the point in time. Another important aspect in revenue is your high cost of collection versus your debt collected. Because other people, yes, you're collecting, yeah, but you're collecting 58,000. But it's costing you 80,000 to actually collect. You have to pay someone 80,000, but you're only collecting 50,000. Why do you might as well not even collect because it's costing you more? Might as well do it in-house and do it yourself. So we have to look into those aspects. Reduction in cost of recovery of monies owed to municipalities. If you don't think of those things, you're just going and you are active, but you're going nowhere. You're not progressive. But you're busy. You're so busy. But look at the results. There are no results in that. All right. Oops. All right, I've touched on that. I've got 5 minutes. The issue of tariffs, I think, again, that is quite a high-level issue I won't touch on. And then the monitoring and evaluation, if you can't measure something, you can't monitor it. So for us, we made sure that on a monthly basis, we report. These are the reporting structures that we put in there. And then, importantly, you have to increase your collection rate, reduce your old debt. These were objectives which we met. And then decrease your revenue cost, which I've touched on. And then you can start at increasing your revenue base. Other people, the focus is, we don't have money in the municipality, let's go find other communities to bill. We need to go and bill another 10 million rands worth of money. But you first can't manage and recover from the current. Now you want to go and increase your revenue bill. Focus on where you are first. Then can you go into another area and say, yeah, we're not billing these ones because of certain issues, now we need to bill them. Otherwise, if you go the other route and just increase your revenue base, what happens is those people who are not paying you, it's going to take you a very long time to get them to pay you because they've not been paying for all along. Okay, you guys are from here. In Soweto, they're not paying for services. I'm sure he knows about that, but it's a long, long, long story. Now, if you go and bill an area which you are not collecting from before, you are actually increasing now your bill, your revenue bill. Your collection rate will actually be lower, which is what is also measured by municipalities. Provincial Treasury, they go and measure municipalities by that, to look at how much have you billed, how much have you collected. Now, if you increase your revenue bill, but your collection is not talking to that, then your collection rate is then lowered. So you must ensure the process, that model that you're building, it's all talking to each other. Now, you are this group, as you understand all of these things, because you are going to be accountants, you're going to be accounting in one particular section, But remember that you're just within a circle, you're within a chain. Make sure that the whole chain is working and functioning well. Where you can add more input, add more expertise somewhere within the revenue, because as I've indicated, this is one area that is currently a big challenge in municipalities. We're looking for people that can bring that particular change. And then lastly, efficient operations. It's no use doing the same thing because it was done 5 years ago that way, but it could be done better. Now, as you understand the whole process, what can take 3 days can take 3 hours. You guys are clever. You understand IT and network and technology. You put things into Excel, you come up with exceptions, you've got formulas, this, that. It can throw you things that for us, labase vadala, with gray hair, it will take us so long to do. But because you are young, you can be able to do this, be efficient in the operations, streamline things, suggest, maybe this, we're doing it this way, maybe it can be done this way. And I said earlier, remember, do it with respect. Just because you've got your honors and your degree, and I don't have it, but I know what I'm looking for. And there are reasons, and there are other processes, and there are policy issues that you might not understand why you need to do it that way. So just because you think you know it, doesn't mean that we need to do it. So it's just up to you to do it with courtesy, do it with respect, and then try to show the bigger picture and allow the processes to unfold and make sure that at the end we can get quicker results that we are all looking for. All right, so from strategy to implementation, we can plan, but make sure that you implement. When I spoke of this, I did this in 15-16 and 16-17, and then this was our output in terms of what we started to do and did. So we increased our figures from 87 million to 104 million in a year, which equated to 17 million rand extra, because we focused on getting the money into the bank account, than focusing on just being too busy. Because you need to make sure you get the money. You are there for the money, if in revenue management. You're not there to generate statements. You are there to get the money for the municipality at a very low cost as possible. And that must translate into rands and cents. That is why I'm showing this, because at the end of the day, there must be evidence that what you're doing, you're getting the results, so that if you're not, well, sometimes you can try this method, doesn't work, maybe to try another one. So as you're doing that, then you're able to show what you're actually doing. I did this, I said, unfortunately the manager couldn't come because I was the acting CFO at the time, and this was our primary focus in doing that. All right, I hope you got something today. You good? No one is sleeping? Oh, okay, no. Thank you very much. I'll now hand over to the program director of the day.